Hey guys, today's the day I'm going to try to catch up on a lot of movie reviews. I saw a lot of movies recently, not so recently some of them, and I just never got around to reviewing them, so just a lot of catch up. And I'm going to start with the one I saw most recently. I actually saw this one yesterday, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a new release. It's been out for a little while, at least a week, maybe two. I'm not sure, but it's the remake of Overboard. So Overboard, of course, is that 1987 movie with Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn. And this movie is a nostalgic favorite for a lot of people. I, however, have never seen the original version of Overboard. So, or I should say, I had never seen it. Because after I saw this new remake yesterday, I came home and my sister felt she had to show me the original because she's definitely not a fan of remakes usually, and was dead set against this Overboard remake. So she wanted me to check it out, and I guess what I'm going to tell you about here is why I think I kind of prefer the new one. So yeah, we're going to get into that. So let me lay out the plot for you. And I'm going to talk about both of these movies, I guess. So basically, in the original Overboard, Goldie Hawn is this spoiled rich girl type character. She's married, no children. In the beginning of the film, we see her on a yacht, just, enjoying being rich and stuff. And Kurt Russell is this single father. He kind of lives out in the woods. And he's got I don't even know how many kids. He's got a bunch of little boys. And they are just nightmarish kids. I mean, they're just trouble. And it's kind of his fault. Well, I mean, he's a hard worker, and I guess he spends most of his time working. But he really seems to do nothing in regards to disciplining or just raising these kids. They're just doing whatever all the time. And yeah, I kind of semi-blame that character for it, the father character. And to be honest, both of these characters are kind of cartoonish extremes. She is the extreme, rich, stuck-up, 80s, just extreme rich girl. And it's funny. It's that 80s style with all the metallic and angular, just the decor in their bedroom and all this stuff is crazy. And he's kind of living in this really gross place out in the woods. It's just garbage everywhere. It looks like if Roseanne was a hoarder. That's what their house looks like. It's horrible. Two extreme different people. Basically, what happens is he's kind of a handyman. He does all these odd job type things. And he's on the yacht one day because he's been hired to remodel this heiress, this rich girl, Goldie Hawn character, to remodel her closet because she's got way too much clothing for the space. So he does the job. When he's done, she's really, really upset. Oh, by the way, spoiler alert, I'm going to get into everything in this review. She's upset because he didn't use the right kind of wood, even though she didn't specify that beforehand. And so they get in a very big altercation, and I believe she ends up pushing him off the boat into the water, throwing all his tools in the water, and just, it's horrible. And so what happens is, I don't remember why, but at some point she falls off the boat later, and she ends up with amnesia when she washes up on the beach. And, oh yeah, she was looking for her ring. She had lost her ring, and she was looking for it, and she falls off the boat. I don't remember if she was drunk or what. But anyway, so she washes up on the shore with amnesia. This takes place in Oregon, by the way. And so she's at the hospital. her husband comes in to identify her, and he sees her, but he decides she's such a nightmare, you know, she's so spoiled and horrible. He decides he's just going to leave her there and party because, you know, now he's rich and he's got everything all to himself. So he just ditches her. He says, that's not my wife. And Kurt Russell sees her on TV. And by the way, she owes Kurt Russell all this money because she refused to pay for the work that he did. So he's like, I'm going to get my money out of her, you know, by putting her to work. So he goes over and identifies her as his wife. You know, she's got amnesia. She doesn't know. And he takes her home and convinces her that he is her husband and that the 4 or 5 or how many boys they have are her children. And and she, you know, has a hard time dealing with it because she's a spoiled rich girl character. And but eventually she starts to take over the job as the mother, being very, you know, she starts to be, you know, the disciplinarian, and she starts like teaching him how to eat better and all that stuff. You know, just, does she do that? I think she does. I don't want to confuse this with the new one. She starts cooking for him and stuff. You know what I mean? She's basically their slave at first, and then she becomes a real mother to them, and you know, then they get attached to her, and eventually, of course, it's a romantic comedy. So Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn, eventually they fall in love. Meanwhile, Goldie Hawn's character, and I don't remember the name of the character, her mother, and that's not a judgment on the movie. I'm really bad at remembering the character names when I watch a movie. But her mother starts calling the husband, insisting that she talk to her daughter. And so he decides, okay, I've got to go find her, even though he's been partying and probably cheating on her a lot and stuff like that. And by the way, eventually, because they've fallen in love, eventually Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn do have sex. So some people have issue with that because, you know, she's married and he's tricked her and all that stuff. Although it's, you know, still consensual, but at the same time, he's tricked her into thinking that he's her husband, so it's not, you know, it's a complicated issue. So he comes back, and when she sees him, because he manages to find her at this guy's house. I don't remember if it ever said how he found out she was with Kurt Russell, but he finds her. When she sees him, her memory comes back. And of course, you know, big confrontation, like, you know, you tricked me and all this stuff. And the husband ends up taking her away, and she's happy because she's rich again. But of course, you know, the feelings start to bubble up because she's grown really attached to Kurt Russell and the kids, and, you know, the life that she has there with them. It's just been more fulfilling than the life she had on the yacht with her husband, just, you know, drinking champagne all day and being rich. And so of course, you know, she changes her mind, and there's this, and Kurt Russell, at the same time, he and his kids decide, hey, we've got to go out and get her. The kids really push him to do it, but he wants to too. He's in love with her, and so they get a boat and they go to find the yacht. And meanwhile, the yacht, Goldie Hawn has turned the yacht around, and, you know, they come together in the middle of the ocean and they run to each other, swim to each other, you know, and, you know, they're in love. And we find out that Goldie Hawn is the one who has all the money, not her husband. So, you know, they're rich now too. So that's the way it ends. They end up together and they're rich and everybody's happy. The husband is not, but I don't remember what happened to him. I guess he just got kicked off the yacht. And, you know, I only watched it one time, and we had a lot going on because my sister was preparing to go out of town. So anyway, that's the gist of the original film. The remake Now, this is interesting. It's got moments where it's got scenes where they take direct dialogue from the original film. But that's just some scenes. It happens from time to time. I think most of the time it works. But let me get into the major differences. For one thing, the original film, and this is one of the bigger differences. The original film is, I mentioned, cartoonish extremes in terms of the way that Goldie Hawn's character is the spoiled rich girl character, and the way Kurt Russell is, just this totally like pretty much worthless as a parent figure character, but also, the way the kids are just like climbing the walls, like do whatever you want, like little kind of spoiled brat kids, but in a different sense, not, poor spoiled kids, they just get to do whatever they want all day and eat whatever they want and, whatever, no discipline whatsoever. So, they're extremes, and they live like kind of like this hillbilly lifestyle out in the woods. It's very different. Because in the new film, which stars Anna Faris and I'm going to try to remember this actor's name, Eugenio Derbez, I think. Let me see if I've got this on here. Yeah, okay. Check my phone here. Eugenio Derbez. He is a Latin actor, a Mexican actor who came out with How to Be a Latin Lover. Maybe that was last year, I think, maybe. It just came on Hulu, and I need to check it out. And he's been around for a long time, but in Spanish language television and stuff like that. And I've seen him I grew up on the Texas-Mexico border, and I mean, I guess they have Telemundo and all that, Univision everywhere, right? Probably, but anyway, where I live, it was probably those were probably the most popular channels. Not for me, because I don't speak Spanish, even though I had Spanish like junior high, high school, college. I'm half Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. I just never latched onto it. I never really picked it up. But anyway, so those channels were present there, and you'd be flipping through television, and sometimes you'd watch it even though you don't understand a word of it. I mean, they have those iconic characters like that character in The Simpsons who dresses like a bee is based on a character we've all seen flipping past the Spanish language channels. And I know that I've seen Eugenio Derbez a lot over the many, many years that I lived where I used to live. And I live in Austin now, and I don't have television, so I just use Netflix, Hulu, all that stuff. But he's been breaking into like American cinema. And this has largely been, or I guess international cinema, and this has largely been because there's a production company that produced this, and it produced How to Be a Latin Lover, and for lack of a better word, they kind of have an agenda for trying to make films that are for a Hispanic audience, Latin American audience, that are interesting. They're this is the first one I've actually watched, but based on like the idea I get of How to Be a Latin Lover, they're almost like these weird hybrids of like Latin American television and American movies. And you could kind of take that as a criticism, because when you're watching the film, and again, I really liked this film, and I liked the original, but I'm going to talk about that. But watching this remake of Overboard, one criticism I might give of it is that there were times when you're watching it, and it was a great movie. I liked it. I don't know. I know it's getting a lot of negative reviews. At least I never look at Rotten Tomatoes and stuff, but I was, researching the film a little bit after I saw it, and I saw that it's got a pretty low score. And I think a lot of that is nostalgia for the original, but I'll get into that in a minute. But I do have to say, what I was getting at a second ago is, you know, you're watching the movie and then at times it feels like you flip the channel to Telemundo. And it's just, I don't know if all the films from this production company are having that feeling. Again, I need to go watch How to Be a Latin Lover, and I'm intending to after I film these reviews. But this film did kind of have that feeling, but at the same time, I don't know if it's really, if I really consider that a negative, because a big part of this movie, and it's one of the things that makes it interesting and different from the original, is that they were comparing the plot very much to a telenovela, which I'm very familiar with those, even though I never really like watched some. There were some that I wanted to watch. Some of them had some pretty cute girls. I don't know if any of you remember somebody named Thalia, but you know, I had a crush on Thalia. She was, and she had like a telenovela, but I think it was just from the gist of it, it was kind of like a Cinderella type story, like a modern Cinderella or something. But I don't know if that's just the way the opening looked. But anyway, she probably had more than one telenovela. But yeah, you know, every once in a while you see one that looks interesting, but I don't understand them again. But but this movie was very much comparing the plot to a telenovela, and so there were a lot of references to telenovelas. So, and then, you know, because like there would be characters that were watching telenovelas all the time and talking about them. It was part of the humor of the movie. It was like a joke, you know, about how this was kind of a similar situation. And I thought that was, you know, a pretty interesting take on it, a pretty unique take on it. I hope that, you know, see, the production company is like partly, like, it's like owned by, or partly owned by one of the like television, not Univision, but something like that. Not Telemundo, but another company that's kind of like that. It's Tele something or other. And so I'm hoping that not all their films are going to have this like feeling like I'm watching a telenovela or something. But it, you know, it's okay in this movie. I guess it's not really a negative because it ties into the idea of the movie, and it's sort of an interesting spin that they take when remaking this film. But what I really like that's different from the old one, and I'm a cartoony guy, and I love old 80s comedies too, and I love hokey ones, and I didn't dislike the original when I watched it, but I was telling my sister, the new one, the remake, is more realistic. I mean, it's still an outlandish plot of somebody doing something really bad, even if, you know, they're trying to get like, they're sort of trying to teach somebody a lesson or whatever, it's still really horrible. They're taking advantage of somebody and everything. I get that, but of course it's a comedy, and if you're offended by that, then you have you need to stop seeing movies. Okay, it's a comedy, right? But and maybe that works better to some degree when the characters are really cartoonish and ridiculous. But what the reason I felt that it was better when it was all a little more realistic is that I was able to feel for the characters when it was emotional. I could feel for it more. I could get the heart of it more. Just because it was more real. It wasn't just a cartoony comedy, you know? When in the original, there were times when, like when Goldie Hawn's character decides she's going to make the best of the situation, it's very sudden to me, and I don't feel like I don't feel like I really see why she suddenly decided I like this family. You do see them kind of fall in love and stuff, but there's a moment before that where she just decides, but it's just like instantaneous, and they're treating her horribly, and she just joins in at some point, immediately acting like she's loving it. But it was just all of a sudden for me, and I just thought that was a little weird. And there was something else that happened later. Maybe it was just there were a couple of moments like that in the original film where it just seemed like, for the sake of the story, you know, it progressed without feeling so natural, you know. Whereas with the new one, I thought they did a better job with that. But anyway, with the new one, and talking about changes, if you don't know, the new one reverses the roles. In the new one, the spoiled brat guy is, well, it's a guy. It's the guy. It's Eugenio Derbez. It's not Anna Faris. She's the Kurt Russell character. But she's not like living like a hillbilly with these uncontrollable kids. She has three really sweet little girls, and she's a good mom who's trying to study to be a nurse. And her mother was supposed to help take care of the kids while she, studied for her exams or whatever. And her mom, ditched them to go do her thing. She's trying to be an actress. So Anna Faris's character is suddenly like kind of desperate for some kind of help. So after she's had her altercation on the yacht, because there are a lot of similarities to the first movie, after she had her bad experience with Eugenio Derbez, who is not married in this film, it's a different plot line as far as who has to come looking for him, but I'll get to that later. But after she has her bad experience with Eugenio's character, she's the one who ends up, tricking him. He ends up having amnesia, same way. And there is a reference to the original film. They're like, we haven't seen any amnesia case in here since that girl in the 80s, So it was and it's still in Oregon and everything. So she takes him in and says, I'm your wife and these are your kids. And of course, they're three little blonde kids. They're totally not Hispanic at all. And so she's like, well, we had to use a sperm donor and all that stuff. And I thought it was very funny. I mean, some people say the first one was funnier. Maybe some people just don't find this new one funny. I thought it was very funny. I thought Eugenio Derbez was very funny. This is definitely his movie. And I agree with people who say the first film did a better job of sharing the spotlight with the two main characters. Anna Faris, I mean, she's definitely in this, but I don't want to say she doesn't really have as much to do because they focus on Eugenio's character a lot. When she interacts with him, she's very funny also. When it's over, you kind of feel like it was his movie. But, I mean, she does a great job and she's still present. And she's funny, when they have her do something funny. And she looks great too, as usual. And so the cast is great. In the original film, you have Roddy McDowall as Goldie Hawn's butler, and he's fantastic. We're huge fans of Roddy McDowall. He's he was in Disney films way back when, so we really love him from that. And Fright Night, of course. But in the remake, they have, I forget this actor's name, but he played Evie's brother in the Mummy films. And he's fantastic too, and in this movie he's excellent. Really enjoyed him in this. So basically, Anna Faris's character takes Eugenio Derbez home. She has to tell him, in order to avoid sex, she tells him, you're a recovering alcoholic, and until you have gone through a certain period, we're not supposed to do anything. I think that was her excuse. And so they weren't having sex for a while, but eventually they fall in love and they also have sex, but at least he's not married already. And also he's the one who's always trying to have sex. It's not the other way around. So, because he was this playboy character. And again, it was more believable. He was very funny as this playboy character, and it was less cartoony, I'll put it that way. I mean, yeah, it's the classic playboy character, but still totally believable. And she is, again, she's not this hillbilly kind who just doesn't take care of her kids or anything. So it was, and she lives in the suburbs and stuff. Very normal in that case. And the way they end up falling in love with each other, and he ends up, loving these kids and everything, I don't know, it just flowed better for me than the original. It was just more natural. He was this guy who, he didn't really have I don't want to say he didn't have much of a life, because, yeah, all he did was party with girls in the hot tub all the time. But, I mean, that's pretty cool. But anyway, I mean, I don't see what there is to complain about that. But, but he, again, you know, he just, you could tell he felt more fulfilled when he ended up taking over as a father figure in this household. But it was also really sweet and interesting to watch how it happened for him. Because it wasn't just like, oh my God, these kids are crazy and I've got to, like, you know, snap them into shape and everything. It was more like these kids, you can tell they really, like, want a father around. And they need, you know, Anna Faris's character needs some extra help around. And he starts to fill that role in a way that is just more relatable. I'll put it that way. He you know, he really enjoys doing things with the kids, and he like, he doesn't know how to cook. Neither of them know how to cook in either film. Goldie Hawn doesn't know how to turn on a stove. He doesn't know how to. But when he learns, it's like, you know, you have the same kind of funny stuff happening, but then he's like going shopping, and you can tell, like, he's not just doing the thing where, he's really not doing the thing where he's like, oh, I shouldn't have to work. You know, it's still being a spoiled brat, even with the amnesia. In this case, he's just like, kind of, you know, doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know how to do things. But you can tell, you know, he kind of is familiar with, like, better food and stuff. And so, like, he's shopping and he starts to buy, like, better things. And he picks up a cookbook and he learns to cook really well for these kids, just so everybody can, like, have better meals and things like that. And he wants to be involved with the kids in their lives, and it's more on an individual level rather than just these, you know, these kids need discipline and stuff. These kids are not having, like, discipline trouble. They're having more, like, you know, their own individual things, you know, where they need somebody who has a little time, you know. And, you know, it's just that Anna Faris is having to bear the whole load as far as parenting, and she's trying to become a nurse so that she can provide for them better. But, you know, she can't do that at the same time as being the only parent around for the kids. So he starts to fill that role. It's not that they did a bad thing in the original film, but it was just more... It was more pure comedy, you know? And so it was more extreme stuff. And it wasn't as personal and believable to me. Because I can feel better. I can feel the emotions involved more deeply than if it's just like a hokey, jokey comedy where, I mean, I can enjoy that and it's funny. But this one, to me, had more heart in the story. There were still moments where, like, for example, the moment where he sees his family again and he remembers everything. And so they have their confrontation about, you know, where the truth comes out. And he has a speech that I guess is similar to the one Goldie Hawn had. Maybe it's word for word in the first film. It has this funny, like, little moment at the end, but a lot of it, that particular delivery didn't work as well for me. But just overall, I just bought the relationships more. I bought the relationships more between the two of them, and especially with the kids, he and the kids, and it was just, he was very charming in the film. And I'm talking about him because he's new to me, and the movie does seem to be more about him. He's the one who's the fish out of water in the story, so you follow him more. And but she was great too, and I know her better already, but he's the one that's new to me. So yeah, I felt that the remake was just richer in terms of the emotions and the connections between the characters. Not that I didn't... I mean, the original film has a certain quality because we know that Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn are an actual couple. So they've got chemistry and they've been together for years and years and years. And maybe I don't know how much chemistry you could say Anna Faris and Derbez had, but just writing wise, and I thought they worked well together, and writing wise and everything, it was just better for me, story wise. Just the way it was written and everything. I really liked the remake. I know it's a remake. A lot of good remakes out there. There really are. A lot of films you probably love you don't know are remakes. But I'm not trying to take anything away from the original film. The original film was funny. But it was also more mean-spirited a lot of times. Whereas this one, it was more charming to me. I mean, Kurt Russell, we love Kurt Russell too. Again, he's an old Disney actor, and we're big Disney fans here. But and he was great in that film too. But his character wasn't as charming. His character wasn't really that nice, honestly. And in this film, Anna Faris's character was a really good person. I mean, her friend kind of was the one who talked her into this. I don't remember if anyone had to talk. I don't think anyone had to talk Kurt Russell into this idea. I think this was his idea. I'm not entirely sure. He did have the friend character. But anyway, Anna Faris was more like, I mean, she was a good mom and everything, and more of an innocent character than Kurt Russell's character. Also, Kurt Russell's film had this like subplot where they created this mini golf place. That was his dream. It wasn't nursing, it was a mini golf thing. I have to say, when they finished that little mini golf place and it was a big success and everything, honestly, I didn't think it looked all that great. It didn't look like a very professional mini golf place. I'm just saying, it looked like it was in somebody's yard. I don't know if that was supposed to be in the yard of the family, but yeah, it kind of looked, I don't know, it kind of looked shoddy to me. It was a little sketchy. But anyway, so I was going to mention in the remake, so Derbez doesn't have a wife in this one. He has a rich father who is dying, and he's going to have the company left to him. But of course, he's a playboy. He doesn't really want to run the company. One of his sisters is currently doing all the work running the company, and she's like, why shouldn't I get this company? I'm doing all the work. And the father is like, no, I'm going to give it to my son and everything. And I don't know if that was supposed to be like a sexist thing. I mean, I kind of buy it. Like I said, I'm half Spanish, and there's a lot of like, the culture still does have a lot of sexism going on in it. It does. Just like the whole machismo thing is heavy in the culture. But, and one reason I like Derbez and find him very charming is he's one of those people who doesn't come off as like a macho a-hole type, But the father is gonna wants to leave everything to the son, and the daughter is like, and he's got actually two daughters, and one of them is always on Derbez's side because he still is shown to kind of have a good heart. The younger sister, or I guess it's the younger sister, she points out how he was very supportive all the time of her. So, you also get that from him. You don't really get that from Goldie Hawn's character. They're kind of like both horrible people at the beginning of that movie. And in the new one, they're better people. I'm able to get behind them more. Let me put it that way. As much as I like Kurt Russell, I've never been like a big Goldie Hawn fan. The only thing I really know Goldie Hawn from, I mean, I know she was on Laugh-In, and I used to see a little of that on Nick at Night when I was a kid, but that was like a long time ago. I don't really remember too much of it. But mainly I know Goldie Hawn from Private Benjamin, which used to air on television all the time when I was a kid. And I don't really like very much movies that are like about the army and stuff like that. I'm not big into that. So I wasn't like a big fan of it. I mean, but I do think I saw it a lot. But that's the only thing I ever knew Goldie Hawn. I don't remember that movie much, but I remember the cast, and that's about it. But well, the main two lead characters. But yeah, that's all I know Goldie Hawn from, really. I did see that comedy she did like a year or two ago, I guess a year ago, with Amy Schumer. Yeah, I thought it was funny. But anyway, so the sister in the remake, the one that wants to take over the company, is the one who goes to the hospital to identify her brother, and then when she sees him, she's like, "Oh, that's not him," or does she go there? Actually, go? Yeah, she does go to the hospital. I think so. So yeah, she's the one who ditches him in the hospital and just says, "Oh, he died," and she tells everybody he was, it was a shark attack or something. So the father ends up thinking that he's dead, but I don't remember why. I guess he wants to see a body or something. I don't remember, but she ends up having to go look for him and everything. She brings back some ashes, but what happens with? I don't know. I don't remember what happened to where the father figured out that he must still be alive somewhere. I guess he calls. Oh yeah, I think they call up the. I don't know, the sheriff in the area, and the sheriff says there's been no shark attacks or anything here. I would know. And it's like, and his name is Brody, and he's missing an arm, and I guess it's supposed to be the sheriff from Jaws, but and which I thought was funny. Some people are like, oh god. I thought that was a funny little thing. But anyway, they so then the father's like, okay, so he's still alive, we need to find him, and so they end up finding him, and they take him away and everything, and that's when they have the big confrontation, just like in the first movie. So then they're on the yacht, and Anna Faris and her kids, they take a boat, they take their friend's boat to go find him, and and it's similar to the first movie. They all they end up swimming to each other in the ocean, and it's a little different because he starts trying to negotiate with his dad, because the father is like trying to cut him off. He's like, if you marry this woman, I'm cutting you off. I don't remember why, because she's poor. I don't know, but for some reason he's like, I'm gonna cut you off, and he does. They go there. They ends up cutting him off, but there's the twist at the very end when the butler comes over and he's like, that yacht, you still own that yacht. It was your birthday present. It's really funny. The name of the boat is Birthday Present, but so he's like, yeah, you own that yacht. It's in your name. So, and it's worth $60-some million, like $65 million. My God, really? Are there yachts worth $65 million? That's insane. I was thinking if I won the lottery, it's like 20 million right now. And I was like, I can't even buy a yacht? Not that I would. I mean, I got plenty of other stuff to do with that, but geez. Some people are really filthy rich. But anyway, so yeah, they end up rich at the end because of that. And so you get your extra happy ending. But yeah, they end up together. It's a romantic comedy. It's a happy ending, and I find it very satisfying. And I liked the first one. It was a funny movie, and it was more quirky. The characters were more quirky. The characters were more. It was more of a film where had. It gave more even attention to both characters. It made them equally important. The new film, I think it still does that, kind of, but it focuses a little bit more on Eugenio Derbez's character. I guess it does. I don't know. I just find the new film more satisfying overall, just because it had the characters had more of a connection to me as far as the relationships he developed with the kids and with Anna Faris, and they were just more believable for me, and I think that's important. I mean, obviously Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn have chemistry, but that doesn't mean that the writing was there in terms of the relationships and everything. And they weren't as good of people in the beginning of the film. Yeah, you get to see them become better people. I mean, you see that with Eugenio's character in this film too. With both of them, really. because she has to learn her lesson about what she did also. But I think they're both good. I think they're both fun movies. The first one is more silly, campy, classic 80s silly, campy. But this one, I think, has more heart to it, the remake. I think it has more... I think the emotional stuff works better. Just because I think they were more realistic characters for me. I don't have to have realistic characters, but just... it's going to make the emotional stuff more powerful. And that's what it did for me. If you're not okay with subtitles... This is what I was saying about how, it felt like all of a sudden they were switching the channel to Telemundo, because whenever they would cut to the family, which they did a lot, and I'm talking about Eugenio's family, it would switch to all Spanish, all subtitles, and that's basically what I was talking about before. All of a sudden it was like somebody changed the channel, because it wasn't just a little bit, it was like a lot and often, and very much like watching a telenovela, But I get that was kind of the idea of this movie, was that the plot line was kind of like a telenovela or something. So with that in mind, it doesn't really not work. You just be prepared for that. Some people really don't like Spanish television. They don't like telenovelas and things like that. I know people like that, and I guess that's my point about saying that's a big aspect of the film, and that's something that might make you prefer the old one a lot better. But yeah, I really like this one, and a lot of people just really love Kurt Russell. I really love Kurt Russell, but some people, you can't remake a Kurt Russell movie, which most of the time I might feel the same way about. But I have no nostalgic attachment to this movie. I mean, I've always been aware of it, but I've never watched it. And I didn't know much about it. I didn't really know anything about the plot or anything. I might have kind of vaguely known about it at some point. I mean, I'm sure my sister told me about it or something, but by then it was like much later, to where I probably already lived here and didn't have cable. But yeah, well, I'm glad I finally saw the original. I did like it, but again, it doesn't have that nostalgic thing for me, and I think for most people that's why they're preferring the original. I think this one did financially well, the remake, but again, just not critically well. But I don't really see a reason for that except for nostalgia. I thought it was good. I thought it was funny. It wasn't the funniest movie in the world, but it was funny. It was a very charming little story. It was very much like they took the original and they made it more of a standard family film in some ways. It didn't. I'm not saying there was no adult humor in it. I don't remember if there was a little bit, but. As far as the way the character of Anna Faris was and her family, I mean, you could almost imagine, at times, this being on the Hallmark Channel or something, but not a lot. More often it was like watching Telemundo, but at times it had that when it was just like Anna Faris's character and stuff. Oh, and I was gonna say the whole thing about the sister wanting to take over the company. She did kind of a bad thing by faking. Of course, she dished her brother in the hospital, and until she faked that he was dead, she brought an urn with ashes from somebody's barbecue, and it was funny and everything. But for the most part, I was kind of like, why don't you give the company to her? She's the one who's running it right now, and he obviously is no good at it and everything, or doesn't know anything about it, doesn't really want to. In the end, he gave it to the other sister, and I guess that's okay because she was kind of a better person. But really, I don't know why in the beginning they weren't giving it to the older. I'm calling her the older sister because she just gave off that vibe. I don't know if she was older, but she was the one running the company, and why wouldn't you just give her the company? I don't get that. I don't know. That was one little thing. Again, I don't know if that was like a sexist thing or what that was, but he wanted to give it to the son, and then she ended up, you know, her true colors came out with pulling that trick that she did. But I mean, I almost don't blame her, because she really should have gotten that company from her dad. That was kind of BS. But anyway, I still prefer that movie. But again, I still like the original. So that's it, guys. I think that's all I have to say on it that I can remember. It's super late, and I gotta go clean the bathroom so that the maintenance guy can come tomorrow, because my ceiling in the bathroom is leaking for the 3rd time that I've had to have them come over and fix it. Oh boy. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later, and yes, I will be posting more reviews for older stuff now, and again, the X-Files by Moonlight show and Sailor Moon by Moonlight is coming back, but my sister is, right now, she's in Hollywood doing acting, like, business stuff, and so we're gonna have to wait like a week or two. I mean, I think she's going somewhere else after that, so it's gonna be like a couple weeks, but then we're getting back to Sailor Moon, and we're getting back to X-Files, I promise. Okay, guys, I will talk to you later.